Welcome back, Truth Seeker. I believe we're live. It's Wednesday, October 10th, 2018. Going to go over some of the top news stories, including Hurricane Michael, which is about to make landfall on Florida's Panhandle. They're saying it's going to be the worst hurricane to hit that area in a century. We're going to talk about how it's unnatural and purposefully targeted for the Panhandle. We're also going to read from my book. I'm going to read the entire chapter on weather warfare by the numbers, and you'll see how today's storm fits that perfect pattern of what I exposed in the book. But before we build up to Hurricane Michael, hold on, I need to tune you guys over to my desktop. I want to talk about a few other news stories circulating, and then we'll get to the hurricane, and then we'll get to reading the book. So, you should be seeing my desktop. I want to start right here. This news headline emerged last night, October 9th, 2018. Remember, yesterday was the day leaving 83 days left in the year. In the headlines, we got the death of two NFL-related men. We got the death of the owner of the San Diego Chargers, which we covered yesterday, and the death of the first black man drafted into the white NFL at the time, the man that they called the Jackie Robinson of the NFL. Both men elderly, but both men murdered by the numbers. The news coming on the day leaving 83 days left in the year because football equals 83, so does murder, just like how the song Murder by Numbers came out in 83. Now, last week when this story broke, the death of this high school football player in Georgia, I covered how it was a very deep Scottish rite of Freemasonry ritual, and I suspected that his death might actually be a ritual sacrifice. Not actually caused from the injury and concussion he sustained on the field. So anyway, yesterday, October 9th, on this curious day, the day leaving 83 days left in the year, they come out and they say his cause of death was a cardiac arrest stemming from head injury, which doesn't really make sense. His heart shouldn't shut down because of the injury to his head. But look, the same numbers persist that we talked about in the video last week. His name's Dylan Thomas, having Gematria 57, just like Scottish Rite, and now just like cardiac arrest. And the day this news came out, October 9th, 2018, date with 57 numerology, 10 plus 9 plus 20 plus 18, 57. American football credited to the Scottish Rite Freemason, Walter Camp. Let's not forget that the name Walter has Gematria of 83 like football, and also in this case, murder. In the base ciphers, cardiac arrest also has Gematria value of 96 like Freemason. And in case you missed the work I did on this young man's death last week, we went into much greater detail. The things coded in the headlines, the jersey number he wore, where this happened at, Zebulon. You'll notice he was number 32. The word Scottish, as in Scottish Rite Freemason, has that Gematria 32. Just so many Freemason codings of his name. Dylan Thomas, 42. Also like Freemason, you see. Cardiac arrest, 96 like Freemason. It's just not hard to see what's really going on in this nation. This death happened in Pike County. Same Gematria as Freemasonry. He was on the Pirates. It's one Freemason ritual after the next every single day in the media. Again, Freemasonry is a secret society. The media is holding back the big secret every day that their news is coded propaganda, always in tribute to one group and gang of people, the Masonic Network. The day this happened, by the way, to this young man, it was the day leaving 94 days left in the year. Where it happened was Zebulon, which also has the Gematria 94. He dies yesterday's cause of death came out 11 days later. You know, football, a game of 11 on 11. When you write out 94, it has the Gematria 57. Again, bringing us back to his name, his now blamed cause of death, which doesn't really make any sense. I should also mention that the team he played for were the Pike County Pirates 83, and then they bring out his cause of death on the day leaving 83 days left in the year. And we had already talked about this pattern with football and murder. Then lo and behold, we get the cause of death on the day leaving 83 days. So that's what I mean. Learn the code of letters and numbers. It's as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3. And you'll see through the lies every single day. I suspect this man's father is a Mason, and this happens within this fraternity. Ritual murder, sacrifices, climbing the ladder, punishment, consequences. So here's another good one. Also, yesterday, October 9th, the day leaving 83 days left in the year, the day ripe for murder. Again, that song Murder by Numbers came out in the year 83. The movie poster for Murder by Numbers has the E changed to a 3, the B changed to an 8. 8 and 3, the only numbers on the poster. The numbers of murder. Murder has that Gematria 38 as well as 83. So on this same day, we get this story. Goldman CEO's former assistant commits suicide after confessing to a $1.2 million wine theft. I'm sure there's a whole lot more to this story than what I decoded, but I just already seen enough just starting to read it. Nicholas DeMeyer, 41, the 13th prime, like how there's 13 stacks of bricks on the dollar bill. We're talking about Goldman Sachs, big bank, big money. 13 all over the dollar bill. Anyway, Nicholas DeMeyer, 41, the 13th prime, jumped from his 33rd floor room at the Carlisle Hotel on Manhattan's east side at 2:30 p.m. And again, I'm sure there's so much more to this story. Like, I'm already realizing that I didn't even write that New York equals 33, but just check it out. Goldman equals 33. His name's DeMeyer, 33. He was a banker, 33. This happened in October, 33. All banks are federally insured. Tied in with the Federal Reserve. October 33, Federal 33, Masonry 33, Secrecy 33, Order 33. His name, Nicholas DeMeyer, 67, like blood sacrifice. He's got the right name to be a ritual. DeMeyer's also 39 and 33, just like New York where he died at. I'll just punch in New York here so you can see that. Is there anything to Carlisle? Said it was the Carlisle Hotel. Oh, a 113 and a 41 like his age. You know what I mean? This is what I mean. The more you look, the more you'll find. But just flying from the 33rd window, there were a lot of bankers being killed from the 33rd floor when I first started this research back in 2013. And when I first started this blog, it was October of 2013. And I just remember that. At the same time I started this, I was just saying, what's with all these bankers jumping from the 33rd floor? And here we go again. It's deja vu. It's 5 years later. It's the same repetitive type of story. The only difference between now and 2013 is I know a whole lot more. Again, Masonry's obsession with 33 comes from the 33 bones in the vertebrae. Now let's talk a little bit more about Hurricane Michael. The storm has increased to a Category 4 as it's about to make landfall, and they're saying it might reach Category 5, but I suspect it's going to stay at Category 4. And this is why. When you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, it equals 10, which means 10th is the fourth triangular number. And here we are on 1010. Good day for a Category 4 storm to hit the panhandle by the numbers. And today, 10-10-18, date with 38 numerology, as we've covered many times. Florida equals 38, so does death, so does murder, so does killing. Today's also 52 days from the governor's birthday. 52 days. And that's what we're going to read about in my chapter. We're going to read the entire chapter of Weather Warfare by the Numbers. See how long it takes. But just in case you missed what I showed yesterday, before we read that chapter, here's that murder by numbers stuff, you know. In case you missed what I showed yesterday, let's just review the headlines from yesterday. Hurricane Michael threatens the Gulf. Monstrous storm aims for the Florida Panhandle. And notice, monstrous storm in our base ciphers, a lot of things jump out. The 85 in this cipher is the exact same as Florida Panhandle, which it aims for. And understand that these are military contrived storms, and they are being aimed like precision guided weapons. But the other numbers that jump out, 239, that's the 52nd prime number, a number we see coded into the headlines often in these disaster storms. Sometimes the storms themselves are even named this way. But 239 is the 52nd prime. It's the number that we find all the time in these disasters. Hurricane 52, flood 52, earth 52. Today, October 10th, is 52 days from the governor's birthday, who's born in 52. He was born in the same year that the world militaries began to admit that they had the technology to create disastrous storms, flood targeted locations, etc., etc. So since 1952, as long as Rick Scott's been alive, guy who was born and bred to be, the governor of Florida. Again, there's no democracy in the United States of America. This is a military dictatorship. We're lied to every single day. Pretty much every single thing that comes through the media is a lie. Pretty much everything in our history book is a lie. We are a lied to people. We are being used and exploited for somebody else's purpose. Those would be the people who truly control the banks, the people who benefit from a storm such as this. Destroy and rebuild. All of this destruction that's about to happen in Florida, it's going to be all profit for the people who control the banks that will lend to Florida and the federal government for the rebuilding projects, for the emergency aid, all of that. This is their giant Ponzi scheme. Destroy, rebuild, create a war, fund the war, etc., etc. And because they control the banks, that means they control the paper that lures people into doing this nonsense, selling out everyone else so they can have their monopoly money. So with that said, I think we want to jump in to the book Letters and Numbers and read the chapter on weather warfare. I'm going to take the time to read the whole thing. Might take a little bit here. It's possible that while I'm doing this, I get interrupted and have to go do something else, but I'm hoping that won't be the case. If you have not read my book, it's linked in the description of every video. It's 773 pages long. It's $5. The beginning of the book is why is there 26 letters in the English alphabet? Mind-blowing chapter. From there, we learn the ciphers, how they work, where they came from, and then we work our way up through history. Everything that's relevant about this code. This chapter starts here on page 509. This is nearing the end of the book. But let's do it. Chapter 19, Admitted and Non-Admitted Weather Warfare, 1952 to now. I didn't start in 1952 by accident. So I have a little headline here. RAF rainmakers caused 1952 flood. The reporting shows, get rid of this highlight here. The reporting shown to the left is from The Guardian, dated August 30th, 2001. It was about an admission by the Royal Air Force that they had been conducting experiments in the area of artificial rainmaking in the weeks leading up to the flooding of Lynmouth, August 15th and 16th of 1952, which was said to have killed either 34 people or 35, depending on what sources you read. And again, I mean, this is true of all media. You read about a tragedy, the New York Times will have this number, USA Today will have this number, but I went through a number of headlines, and 34 and 35 were the commonly reported numbers, depending on what sources you read. What I have zero doubt of is that deadly flood was caused intentionally on the specific date of August 15th in line with the code. As a reminder, in Kabbalah, where the language of letters, numbers, and their harmony with the calendar originates, it is believed that the biblical flood is still ongoing. Further, recall that Kabbalah, the Kabbal, Tree of Life, Etzah Chaim, and Gematria all share Gematria 52. Just going to stop there. In case you haven't read the book, just so you know, Kabbalah has the core belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number. The Tree of Life is the physical model for Kabbalah. Etzah Chaim is the Jewish name for Tree of Life. And Gematria is the practice of coding numbers into words. Of course, the Kabbal, that term about the secret political faction, that name is derived from Kabbalah. Kabbalah was once knowledge only for elites. Okay. Again, if you'd read the book up to this point, you would have been well aware of that. But for anyone tuning in for the first time, little backstory there for you. With that said, let us now examine why August 15th, the 227th day of the calendar year in non-leap years, in the year 52, was the perfect date for a flood. So here, in the Satanic Gematria cipher, flood equals 227. In that same cipher, Earth equals 227. With the alphabetic order, flood is 52. So in the year 52, on the 227th day of the year, think about it. Earth is also 52, just using the alphabetic order. The term RAF, remember they're RAF rainmakers. RAF has Gematria of 25 with the alphabetic order, like flood has Gematria 25 with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology. It was the Royal Air Force that was responsible for this. Royal Air Force has Gematria of 97, which is the 25th prime number. RAF rainmakers using the alphabetic order sums to 134, like flooding sums to 134 with the reverse alphabetic order. In light of this disaster being the work of the military, having ordinal gematria of 107, let us look at what the disaster was called, the Hand of God, as well as the unofficial nickname Operation Witch Doctor. The Hand of God sums to 107 with the alphabetic order, same as military. Operation Witch Doctor with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology, also 107. The Hand of God also yields more gematria connecting to flooding. At the same time, if you leave off the, Hand of God yields gematria of 47 and 74, familiar numbers. Connecting is the reduction gematria of Royal Air Force, summing to 74 as well. The Hand of God, 46. Flooding, 46. Flooding also 35, like the number of victims they stated. The Hand of God also has gematria of 62, like how Torah is 62, like how Elohim is 62. Again, the story of the biblical flood comes from the Torah. It's Elohim that's responsible. RAF Rainmakers also has the gematria of 62. In Hebrew, flood, this is the Hebrew word for flood, yields gematria of 26 and 62. Connecting with the words Elohim and Torah. Consider the story of the biblical flood comes from the Torah. At the same time, let us also examine the official military experiment name, Operation Cumulus, as it yields familiar numbers important to the Masonic NWO cartel. Operation Cumulus, with the alphabetic order, equals 223. Flash flooding with the reverse alphabetic order equals 223. And that's what happened here, a flash flood that the military said went beyond their scope of their planned experiment is what killed the town populace where this happened. They were not expecting the flash flooding from Operation Cumulus. Operation Cumulus also has gematria of 119. If you follow my work, you know these numbers. 223, the number of the synagogue of Satan. 119. 119 connects to a lot of things. All-Seeing Eye, Star of David, Orthodox. For anyone out there that has access to Comedy Central, if you have not seen the roast of Bruce Willis, I would like you to check that out because early in the roast, the host, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Joseph Gordon-Levitt looks over and he makes a joke and he says, if your name was any more Jewish, it would control the weather. And they all laugh so hysterically. And I'm thinking, is that even funny? Like, why is that funny to them? Do they know something that we don't know? If your name was any more Jewish, it would control the weather. And just in case you're new here, I just want you to see the most simple cipher with the alphabetic order. Again, Orthodox and Star of David, both gematria of 119. Orthodox, 119. Star of David, 119. All-Seeing Eye, also 119. If your name was any more Jewish, it would control the weather. What does that mean? They all laughed so hysterically, like they knew. And I'm kind of joshing you. I know what it means too. I know who controls the New World Order. I read the New York Times on October 6, 1940. New World Order pledged to Jews. NWO equals 52. 52. Let us now look more carefully at the name Linmouth in light of the reporting of 34 dead and 35 dead, and in connection to the gematria of flash flooding. In case you missed it above, flooding has reverse reduction gematria of 35. This information should prove that the target of the military attack was no coincidence. Linmouth, gematria 34. Linmouth, also gematria 35. And all the sources reported that either 34 died or 35 died. Linmouth also has the gematria of 128 in the ordinal cipher, just like flash flooding. That's just using the alphabetic order, just the same cipher where Orthodox and Star of David and All-Seeing Eye equal to 119. This was the target for the flash flooding experiment. Does it seem accidental? Again, for centuries, they've been operating by this code, doing everything by this code. Starting wars by the number, ending wars by the number, hitting strategic targets with weather warfare. Let's just continue to read. Related, on November 3rd, 1953, the Royal Air Force declassified documents stating why they were interested in increasing rainfall and snowfall for strategic military purposes. The primary reasoning was to bog down the movement of enemy forces. What is fascinating about the release date of the information is how it can be written 3/11, similar to 311, and how that number pertains to flash flooding as well. As we decode, consider the number 311 is the 64th prime, and Synagogue of Satan has Gematria of 64, a title that also corresponds with the number 223, which also connects to flash flooding. Flash flooding in Jewish Gematria is 311. Our next most important cipher outside of the base ciphers. In 1971, investigative journalist Jack Anderson would reveal that the United States military was conducting a flooding operation of its own in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand that went by the name Operation Popeye. I just want to pause here. My girlfriend is from Burma, which is the same region of the world, and she's telling me just how so many people there just they just die so young and unexpectedly, and get these really bizarre, disease and illness, and they don't have the level of education over there. They don't have the doctors, so things are just a big mystery to them. But I think about all of this experimentation that's gone on with the weapons testing in the Asian region of the world. In English, by the way, Asian equals 44, like kill, like military. And think about it, it's the most populated area of the world. And this is a new world order agenda. All of this weather warfare and natural disasters, it seems to be a form of population control. I just wonder how many of these people that she knows that just die unexpectedly and from such young ages, and from all this misunderstood or unknown disease. I just wonder how much of it is a result of all these years of experimentation, spraying stuff in their skies, and realize the same things are going on here now, as many of us are awake to who pay attention to the sky. But this is why this knowledge has to spread, and people have to wake up to the tyranny that we're all living under. People have been suffering needlessly for a very long period of time. So anyway, getting back to the point, flooding operation of its own in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand that went by the name Operation Popeye. According to his research, the operation was led by the CIA and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, who still breathes, born on the 147th day of the year. I bring up that point because by the time you've read this book, you know what's up with 147. Big Freemason conspiracy number. Big Zionist number. By 1973, it was revealed that the program had begun March 20th, 1967, and ended July 5th, 1972, at least according to the U.S. military. The purpose of the operation, according to military intelligence, was due to induce flooding on the Ho Chi Minh Trail to slow down enemy forces in the Vietnam War. Ho Chi Minh Trail has the Gematria of 147, just like Operation Popeye. Supposedly Kissinger, born on the 147th day of the year, again, is the brains behind this. Ho Chi Minh Trail also has the Gematria of 84, like Vietnam, also like Masonry, like Jesuit, like United States of America. The terminology the U.S. military used was cloud seeding, a form of chemistry in the skies to attract moisture and cause massive rainfall in targeted areas. Just to pause again and just go off my own recent experience. I'm living in the desert of Washington right now. I moved here at the beginning of July. It didn't rain until a little less than a week ago. There wasn't a single day of rain. And last week, they just sprayed the bejesus out of the skies here. I mean, just incredible. And you know what happened? The very next day, it was pouring rain here for the first time. And I thought, is this rainfall from what they just sprayed in the skies above us? I mean, they just wiped out the whole sky yesterday with a crisscross trail everywhere, and now we have rainfall. And I think the answer to that is yes. Let us examine the Gematria of cloud seeding, keeping in mind the Hebrew Gematria of flood, which is 62, and also the related Gematria of RAF rainmakers. Cloud seeding sums to 62. RAF rainmakers, 62. As a result of admissions by the Royal Air Force and U.S. military on May 18, 1977, the day leaving 227 days left in the year, the nations of the world would gather in Geneva and sign the Environmental Modification Convention, agreeing to not use techniques of weather warfare such as cloud seeding anymore. For the convention in 77, there were 77 participating nations, reminding you who was running the show. In case you're new here, secret society equals 77, so does power, so does Judaism, so does Zionist. As we'll uncover, this agreement was nothing more than theatrics to dupe the people of the world, and there is no doubt that weather warfare has waged on ever since. One of many examples proving that the weather warfare operation never really ended, despite the 77 agreement, came 52 years to the day of the flooding of Lynmouth on August 15th and 16th, 1952, when a town 62 miles southwest, Bowcastle, would be extensively damaged with flash flooding, August 16th, 2004. I highly recommend you go to the Gematria.com and compare the Gematria of Freemason with Bowcastle. At the same time, please review the headlines where this storm was described as a great coincidence, that detrimental word to the truth of the matter. More recently, on September 3rd, 2017, the day leaving 119 days left in the year, Cornwall was flash flooded when rain wasn't even supposed to be in the forecast. The towns most heavily hit were Polperro, Louis, and Fowey, approximately 100 miles from Lynmouth. Before we move on, let's just do what I recommended in the book. There's a few spots in the book where I ask people to go do the decoding, just to get people in the habit of practicing. And again, Gematria.com makes it so easy for anyone to apply this study. So what did I say? Recommend you go to Gematria and do Freemason and Bowcastle. So let's do it. Let's just see what happens. Bowcastle, Freemason. Yeah, we have overlap in 2 of the 4 ciphers. Where we don't have overlap here, we have reflecting numbers 4224, and here we have a 57 as well, which is a big number with the Scottish Rite. So anyhow, coming back, the Gematria of Cornwall is 35. Remember, that's a flooding number. Cornwall is also 46, the other flooding number. Flooding 46 and 35. Polperro 52, flood 52. Louis 20, flood 20. Fowey 29, flooded 29. All town names syncing up with the words that matter here. And also just the coordinates, the distance, the timing, all being so perfect. What are the odds? Throughout the book, I put headlines in here like this. This is actually the reason the publisher won't publish the book. They say I don't own the right to the headlines, so I'd have to remove all the headlines from the book. But I think removing the headlines removes a lot of powerful content. And that's why I recommend you buy this electronic PDF version so you can have this evidence. Houston's post-Harvey outlook. If $26 oil doesn't do us in, 52 inches of rain won't either. You see the mocking? Flood 26 in Hebrew, flood 52 in English. As the UK was experiencing flood deja vu, the city of Houston, Texas was recovering from possibly the worst flood the United States of America has seen in the age of urban development, where reportedly 52 inches of rain caused massive flash flooding that began Sunday, August 27, 2017, the 239th day of the year. Please recall that the number 239 is the 52nd prime, and the word Torah has Jewish gematria of 239. Again, the story of the biblical flood is from the Torah. Similar to its alternate name, the Book of the Law, having reverse ordinal gematria of 239, which again is the location of the biblical story of the flood. Adding insult to injury, August 27, 2017 was a date with numerology of 52, corresponding with the gematria of Houston, Texas. In addition to having gematria of 52, Houston, Texas also has reverse reduction gematria of 62, corresponding with the Hebrew ordinal gematria of flood, summing to 62. And at the time of the incident, the city had its 62nd mayor, Sylvester Turner, who was exactly 62 years old. As we decode, let us not forget the Torah has 187 chapters. Houston, Texas has the gematria of 62. Houston, Texas also has the gematria of 187. Right place for a biblical flood by the numbers. Of course, none of this was coincidental. Instead, it was all part of the plan that unfolded on this very specific date in this very specific year for a very specific reason, not unrelated to the 45th president being in office. Recall the relationship with Holy Bible and the number 45, as well as the biblical warnings of trumpets in light of the Trumpence White House. As we decode, I will reveal to you the significance of the title, Mayor Sylvester Turner, in light of the biblical narrative of 40 days and 40 nights of rain that caused the flood. As we progress, the pictures will become crystal clear. 40 days and 40 nights sums to 119. Mayor Sylvester Turner sums to 119 in the same cipher. Mayor Sylvester Turner sums to 227, also like flood. In light of the significance of 40 days and 40 nights, it was no coincidence the 40-year-old boxer Floyd Mayweather was in his final career boxing match August 26th as the rains were coming down that would flood Houston. And the announcing crew for the fight were making references to raining, flooding, and drowning throughout the match, with one commentator predicting that Mayweather would drown McGregor in the latter rounds. Consider the name Floyd has reduction gematria of 26, an ordinal gematria of 62, and the name Mayweather has reverse reduction gematria of 52 as well as ordinal gematria of 119, all numbers corresponding with flood. Houston 40, Old Testament 40. At the same time, one of the big news stories was that out of all of celebrities in attendance, it was Steve Harvey who had the best seats in the house. Adding to the sports-related riddles, in Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros would host their first game in their home city after the flood on September 2nd, 2017, playing the New York Mets, who had starting pitcher Matt Harvey on the mound. Consider it was Hurricane and Tropical Storm Harvey that had just devastated the city, and it was New York that was hit by man-made storm Hurricane Sandy in 2012, which we'll get to ahead. The final score would be 12-8 in favor of Houston, where flash flooding has gematria of 128. It was also the 134th game of the season for both teams, where flooding has gematria of 134. The September 2nd game was exactly 52 days before the start of the upcoming World Series, October 24th, 2017. And on the same day, Fox News carried a story of a Houston woman who had her home survive the flooding. Her quote was, "I feel like I've won the World Series. I told my followers that day it was a lock. The Astros would be winning the scripted World Series, and they would go on to win it perfectly. A span of 67 days from the August 27th flooding, November 1st, 2017. The reason 67 matters is because the word water has ordinal gematria 67. In the World Series that the Astros would play in and win, Game 2 was on October 25th, the day leaving 67 days left in the year. And I told my followers then the Astros were a lock to win Game 2 because not only was it the day leaving 67 days left in the year, it was a date with numerology of 52, making it perfect for a flood tribute. In the end of Game 2, the final score would be 6-7 in favor of the Astros, who were about to put out the Los Angeles La Tuna Fire, which was purposefully set September 1st, and something else we'll get to. As I told my followers from the beginning of September on, the rigged World Series was to be Astros over Dodgers, and the water puts out fires World Series. Sadly, when you're awake, you come to realize that all rigged sports are in tribute to the contrived news, because this is how the synagogue of Satan rolls, as the rule, never the exception. Speaking of the synagogue, let us not forget how their gematria of 223 connects to flash flooding. In the case of Houston, the shoe also fits. Houston sums to 223 in the Frank Baconis cipher. For another sports riddle that factored in, let us not forget that Super Bowl 51 was hosted in Houston on February 5th, a date that can be written 2/5 or 5/2, similar to 25 and 52, both being numbers that correspond with the gematria of flood. You'll recall that was the game where Tom Brady had the comeback win from being down 25 points, defeating the Falcons, summing to 25, and earning his 25th playoff win, along with the AFC's 25th Super Bowl, while also becoming 5-2 in Super Bowls, a new NFL record. Of course, it was to close out the 97th season of the NFL, where 97 is the 25th prime, and it was the first season the touchback was moved from the 20-yard line to the 25-yard line. Anyhow, from the game to the date of the flood was 29 weeks, and in reduction gematria, football, flooded, and Harvey equate to 29. Consider it also happened just before the kickoff of the new NFL season, ending in Super Bowl 52 to be hosted by Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, due to the ancient flooding caused by melting of massive glaciers. As we decode, keep in mind we've seen a similar narrative in the NFL's history, with New Orleans Saints winning Super Bowl 44 not long after the flooding of New Orleans by Hurricane Katrina. In gematria, Minnesota equals 52, glaciers 52, hurricane 52, Katrina 52. For more mockery, the 2017-18 NFL season would begin by the city that got the worst of Hurricane Harvey, playing in the city that got the worst of Hurricane Irma. The storms that came back to back, which was Houston versus Jacksonville, respectively. The winner of that game would finish with 29 points, corresponding with flooded. In case you guys forgot, Florida got Irma last year. Jacksonville, the city, got the worst of it right after Hurricane Harvey, just in case you forgot. They opened the season against each other. Hurricane Harvey in Gematria sums to 85. The flood equals 85. National Football League equals 85. The word storm also equals 85. We looked at how Florida Panhandle equals 85, and that emphasized headline monstrous storm equals 85 when we began today looking at the current news. If you can put two and two together, you should understand by this point that the same long-nosed false Jews that control media and banking also control government as well as the world of entertainment, and they merge everything they control together through planned narratives that are put in the faces of the Goyim, who they anticipate will never see it. And as I read that, I just want you to think again about the recent roast of Bruce Willis, where the host looks over and says, "If your name was any more Jewish, it would control the weather." In case you don't know what needs to be done about this, I will quote the Talmud. So here's from the Talmud, Sanhedrin 59a, to communicate anything to a goy about our religious relations would be equal to killing of all Jews. For if the goyim knew what we teach about them, they would kill us openly. Moving on, outside of sports, there were numerous other important riddles happening with Hurricane Harvey and the planned flooding of Houston and southeast Texas. Take, for example, the death of Stevie Ray Vaughan at the age of 35, a span of 38 days before his upcoming birthday. Of course, you've already learned in the book how 38 connects to death, murder, killing. He died on August 27, 1990, 27 years to the day of the flood, who was killed in a helicopter crash in Wisconsin. He was best remembered for the album Texas Flood. In light of him dying 27 years to the day, don't forget Ritual has reduction gematria 27. The name Texas Flood also has gematria of 40. Texas Flood 40, the Flood 40, don't forget Houston's 40, as we covered. That album released June 13th, 1983, a date that is interesting for two reasons. First, it had numerology of 31, corresponding with the reduction gematria of Houston. Keep in mind, when the city flooded, it was 31 days before the Houston mayor's upcoming birthday. Second, it released in the year 83, which connects to the words flood and Harvey. Flood equals 83, Harvey equals 83. Texans also equals 83, who hosted the Super Bowl before Houston was flooded, the Houston Texans. Football has the gematria of 83. In light of the encoding of 83, let us examine Genesis 8:3, where the story of the biblical flood concludes. This will lead us into another Houston-specific riddle with the tragedy. Genesis 8:3, King James Version. And the waters returned from the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. Notice the flood ends after 150 days. This connects to the name of the richest televangelist in the world who resides in Houston, who is Joel Osteen, and who is not a servant of Christ, but a minion of the synagogue of Satan, manipulating the truth of the Bible. I'll add, only in the land of the blind, which is the United States of America, could such a man ever inherit such a flock of sheep, which we'll get to in just a minute. First, let us decode his name, knowing he opened up his church to flood victims on Sunday, September 3rd, 2017, a date that can be written 3/9 or 9/3, numbers that go without saying. Joel Osteen sums to 150. By the way, you guys, the word Illuminati equals 150. Joel Osteen also equals 39, like the 39 books in the Old Testament. Joel Osteen sums to 39 in multiple ciphers. Joel Osteen also has connection to 45, the big Holy Bible number. Let us also decode the relevant gematria of televangelist. Televangelist 52. Lakewood Church 52. Televangelist also 58, like biblical. Televangelist 61, also like Jesus in reverse ordinal. Televangelist 74, also like Jesus with the alphabetic order. Televangelist 151, also like Jesus Christ in the same cipher. See where they come up with these terms? The reason the followers of Joel, a name having ordinal gematria of 42, are sheep is because he preaches that money is happiness. At the heart of every sermon he gives is money. He routinely reminds his followers that if he weren't wealthy, he wouldn't be as happy as he is. This is completely contrary to what Jesus Christ taught the man who becomes violent in one place in the Bible, and that is when he was throwing out the money changers from the church. Let us examine Matthew 21:12. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all of them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. It is also Jesus who has this to say in Mark 10:25. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Meanwhile, Joel Osteen preaches money, money, money. And he is a man made of money. How many private jets does the guy have? In terms of Joel Osteen leading the sheep, he has the right birthday for it, which is March 5th, 1963, a date that can be written 5/3, similar to 53. As a reminder, I give you the story of Dolly the sheep announced to the world on February 22nd, 1997, the 53rd day of the year, and not by coincidence. If we didn't live in a society of sheep, people would have known what I knew then as a 13-year-old. If they can clone a sheep, they can clone any living organism, especially if it is a mammal. Sadly, the Talmud thumpers know how blind the masses are, and they know they can put anything before the eyes of the goyim, and they will only do with it what the television tells them to do, from following Joel Osteen to believing that Dolly was an isolated incident. In Gematria, sheep equals 53, man equals 53, religion equals 53, Dolly the sheep equals 53. Another point about Joel's birthday, it is also the 64th day of the year, corresponding with Synagogue of Satan, Israel, and Zion. In the wake of Houston's flooding, Osteen made big headlines for opening his church to the Jewish community, who lost their synagogue in the flooding. Here's the headline right here: How Joel Osteen's church is serving Houston's Jewish community. May surprise you. Personally, I would find this to be an act of kindness if I didn't know what was truly going on. Keep in mind that Osteen neglected Houston's poor who were out from the flood and were hoping to take refuge in the megachurch known as Lakewood. Isn't that a funny name? Little predictive programming, which we will now examine the gematria of. As we decode, consider the church was made of wood in the middle of a temporary lake. Lakewood 32, Houston 32, the flood. You know what? That is a typo in the book. That's supposed to say 32, not 33. I'm going to have to edit that. If you have a book, you might want to, apologies. It's supposed to be 32 there, not 33. Lakewood also 40, like Houston 40, the flood 40. For those of you with the book, I would, make a little line there and just write 32. I will fix that before the book's printed, that's for sure. I should also mention Lakewood Church was right for becoming the synagogue and to preach the opposite of Jesus, which is sin. Lakewood Church has gematria of 147. The synagogue has gematria of 147. In the satanic cipher, sin equals 147. Isn't that interesting? The synagogue. And in satanic gematria, sin, the same value. For further evidence of how well planned the storm was and how the chessboard was set, we must go back to the 1976 benefit concert for the boxer Reuben Hurricane Carter, held in Houston, Texas, who a 146-minute movie was made about in 1999. It is interesting that the benefit concert was held in Houston because Reuben Carter's story was from New Jersey. It is also interesting that it was Bob Dylan who hosted the concert, a man from Minnesota, because Dylan was 76 years old when the storm impacted Houston, and Reuben Carter had died at age 76, April 20th, 2014. From 1976 to 2017 was also 41 years, where the number 41 corresponds with the gematria of Houston. Hurricane, 97. Carter, 97. Hurricane, also 146, like how many minutes the movie was long. Reuben also has gematria 239 in the satanic cipher, which is the 52nd prime, where the storm in Houston came on the 239th day of the year. Carter was born May 6th, or 5/6. Hurricane equals 56. The Astros would go on to win the World Series in their 56th season. In October, national headlines would arise that the suburb of Houston, Dickinson, Texas, was only providing flood relief to people who pledged not to boycott Israel. The only reason this story received national attention was to flaunt the truth of the situation in everyone's face, reminding who the boss is. Notice how the Gematria of Dickinson also corresponds with Israel and Zion. Dickinson 44, Israel 44, Zion 44. Earlier in this book, we go through a much longer list of 44 in Israel. That's the short list. In the days that followed, it would be announced that the town of Dickinson requested this pledge from its citizens at the behest of Texas Governor Gregory Wayne Abbott. As we decode his name, keep in mind he is the 48th governor of the state, and 223 is the 48th prime. Also, Israel became an official nation in 1948, emphasis on 48. The governor's name, Gregory Wayne Abbott, equals 223 with the alphabetic order. Gregory Wayne Abbott also sums to 223 in the Kabbalah cipher, and in the Jewish cipher, his name sums to 2,230. Out of the entire time I've been doing this study, I've never seen anybody name that has more connections to 223. He's a man who's been synced up with many tragedies, false flags, floods. I'll mention that the day before Harvey made landfall, which was August 25th, 2017, I put out a video warning the people of Texas why flooding would be coming August 27th, 2017, and it was going to be a planned ritual, just like years past. Also, more than a week before Hurricane Irma made landfall in Florida, I said why it would be Florida that the storm hit, and why it would be September 10th, 2017, that would be the day of flooding in Florida, which is exactly what happened. And I want you guys to think that since I've come back in July, I've called out a lot of dates for when these storms are going to impact before the date was given out in the media. This is something that you can do by understanding this code because it is so ritualistic. Of course, the only reason I was able to do this is because for years I had been studying the pattern of weather warfare. In the case of Irma, the reason September 10th, 2017 was to be the day was as follows. 9/10/2017 had 56 numerology. Hurricane equals 56. I also stated that the islands of the Caribbean had better look out on September 6, 2017, as those dates were ripe for hurricane destruction. And not by surprise, those dates became disastrous. September 6, 2017 had 52 numerology, like how hurricane and flood also have Gematria 52. An interesting feature of Hurricane Irma was that it traveled up the west side of the state of Florida and its 67 counties, which was treated as a surprise by the meteorologists. The reason it traveled up the west side is because it was all part of the plan. Irma equals 67, west equals 67, water equals 67. As per usual, the reporting about the storm was all by the numbers. Take this example from CNBC playing on the relevance of the number 62 in regards to flood in the Torah, where it was stated that 6.2 million Floridians were without power. Another comical headline came on the October 6, 2017 in the lone 33 month on a date with numerology at 33 to boot, where NBC reported that Hurricane Harvey and Irma wiped out 33,000 jobs in the United States of America. Of course, the purpose of these manufacturing storms is to allocate resources from certain groups of people, such as the poor, to other groups of people, such as the rich. It is the same concept as making war with the plan of destroy and rebuild, and once rebuilt, move the land and property from a certain group of people to a different group of people. As mad as the tyrants are in doing this, they have a plan and purpose. To better understand the plan, let us again read from the Talmud. Zohar 177b, that all property of other nations belongs to the Jewish nation, which consequently is entitled to seize upon it without any scruples. An Orthodox Jew is not bound to observe principles of morality towards people of other tribes. He may act contrary to morality if profitable to himself or to the Jews in general. And I want you to think about how these people are contriving prophecy, and I want you to think about the words prophet, a prophet, and to make a prophet. Who contrived our language? Spelling, spells, Kabbalah, Gematria. Should we move on? Hope you guys are enjoying this reading. In light of the planned destruction of Texas and Florida from the man-made storms, it was reported that 134 people died from Hurricane Irma and 77 died from Hurricane Harvey. Of course, both of these stats were made up and the death tolls were likely much higher, but consider the numbers reported and how they corresponded with what we've learned about the false Jews, especially regarding Tisha B'Av. So for this part, you would have had to have read earlier in the book. As we also recently uncovered, flooding has reverse ordinal gematria of 134. It just goes to show that everything reported in our media is by the code, as sick as it all is. I should also mention that Hurricane Irma had reverse ordinal gematria of 213, the number of death. After the devastation of Harvey and Irma would come another powerful storm, Hurricane Maria, which the media was certain would impact Puerto Rico. I should mention that at the same time Maria was threatening Puerto Rico and the Caribbean, Hurricane Jose was threatening the United States. Consider that Joseph and Mary from the Bible, also referred to as Jose and Maria in Latin cultures. It has since been reported that Maria killed 66 people, like the number of books in the Bible. In terms of biblical numbers, that isn't all. Maria also has gematria of 39, matching the number of books in the Old Testament, and it made landfall on Puerto Rico September 20th, 2017, a date with a life lesson number of 39. Let us decode the name of the storm and the date of its impact. As we do, notice how Hurricane Maria also connects to the Torah. Maria, 39. The date, 39. Hurricane Maria, 39 in Chaldean. Hurricane Maria, also 239 with the reverse alphabetic order, the 52nd prime, the flood and hurricane number. Torah, also 239 in Jewish gematria. None of this was any coincidence, nor was the headline from CNN September 16, 2017, which read, Caribbean in the crosshairs again, hinting at the truth of the matter, where these storms are targeted weapons intended to do harm. Adding insult to injury, the reverse reduction gematria of the headline is 187, matching the number of chapters in the Torah. Also corresponding with the gematria of Saphir-Simpson, which is the scale to measure the strength of hurricanes, rating categories 1 through 5. Maria would become the first hurricane to hit Puerto Rico in 85 years, where the word storm has ordinal gematria of 85, corresponding with the flood. And again, we're talking about a storm that's happening right now today, Hurricane Michael, which they're coding 85 all over the headlines again. And thank you to the person who just bought the book. You are the first person to buy the book during this reading. Appreciate that. Wish there were more people out there who knew how to invest $5 wisely, but then again, most people aren't very wise. As I say that, another person buys the book. Thank you to you too. 2 people, first 2 people to buy the book during the reading. An interesting note about the scale is the qualifying wind speed for a hurricane. Creating category 1 is 33 meters per second, or 74 miles per hour, or 119 kilometers an hour. All numbers that should jump out, 33, 74, 119. With regards to the number 74, in ordinal gematria, the word energy sums to 74, same with weapon and killing. And in Hebrew gematria, the word hurricane equates to 74, a very biblical number, as you have learned. This serves as a reminder that the world of science as we know it is also presented to us by the code. There is truly nothing in this world that is part of the mainstream that has not been contrived as such. For the person aware of the knowledge, this fact of life is undeniable. In Hebrew, hurricane 74, the qualifying wind speed against 74 miles per hour. Hurricane is also 74 in English when you use the reverse reduction and the master numerology exception. Before moving on to some other noteworthy storms of history's past, I must let you know about what the New York Times published on September 7th, 2017 in the wake of Harvey, and just 3 days before Irma was about to make landfall. Keep in mind that date can be expressed as 9/7, similar to 97, matching the ordinal gematria of 97. You know what was supposed to be written there? I see another little typo. It should say the ordinal gematria of hurricane, which equals 97. It was also a date with numerology of 33, corresponding with the reverse reduction gematria of married and wedding. As you can see, it was about a married couple of 75 years, the number corresponding with order out of chaos, which again is the agenda of the tyrants. In this case, it also fit perfectly with the reduction gematria of Hurricane Irma summing to 75. To think this is the same publication that has mocked people who believed in conspiracy theories. And you know what? I'm just going to take a moment here and step away from the book and talk about this recent blog post. In light of 75 in the New York Times. Should pull it up here. So this is the New York Times, October 6, 1940. New World Order pledged to Jews. And the thing about October 6, 1940 is the date was 75 numerology. New World Order 75, Order out of Chaos 75, Order 75, not an accident. So here's the New York Times again, using 75 to mock the people. And again, I want to bring up the roast of Bruce Willis. Joseph Gordon-Levitt looks over and says, if your name was any more Jewish, it would control the weather. So here we go. On the subject of New York, let us now discuss Hurricane Sandy, known as Superstorm Sandy, a title having gematria of 227, corresponding with flood and which brought much flooding to New York and New Jersey. October 29th, 2012, the most perfect date for a hurricane named Sandy to wreck New York City. For starters, October 29th is the day leaving 63 days left in the year, and Sandy has ordinal gematria of 63. Second, October 29th can be expressed as 10/29, having numerology of 39, where everything in New York is coded 39, as you have learned, and we'll learn even more about in the chapter on rig sports. In case I haven't said so already, 1939 was also the year New York hosted the World's Fair, which is always a ritual in numbers itself. Third, the date October 29th, 2012 had a life lesson number of 44, which corresponds with the Frank Baconis gematria of hurricane, summing to 193, the 44th prime number. Hurricane, 193, October 29th, 2012, a life lesson number of 44, a kill number. It was no coincidence that exactly 46 days after Hurricane Sandy made landfall in New York, the Sandy Hook school shooting happened at an abandoned elementary school since 2008 due to flooding. As you know, the number 46 symbolizes chaos. It also symbolizes elementary and Connecticut, the state where the coincidence happened. I have to edit for YouTube. Elementary 46, flooding 46, Connecticut 46, chaos 46. 46 days later, Hurricane Sandy, Sandy Hook. I should mention that in 2017, a rare, powerful hurricane would impact Ireland in the month of October on a date with numerology of 63, which was October 16, 2017. It was compared by the media to Sandy. Sadly, the long noses left out any lesson on the relevance of gematria and weather warfare by the numbers in their reporting, but they did leave clues calling the storm Ophelia, having reverse reduction gematria of 33, similar to reduction gematria of 33 for October. And the qualifying wind speed for a hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale, 33 meters a second, and where Simpson has reduction gematria of 33 as well. Even more, Ophelia is a name from the work of William Shakespeare, having gematria of 187, just the same as Saffir-Simpson. Again, Saffir-Simpson's the scale that measures the categories for hurricanes. October 16, 2017, a date with 63 numerology, Ireland, 63. Perfect day for the storm to hit Ireland. Rare. Now let's go back to Katrina, which flooded New Orleans, Louisiana, August 29, 2005, a date with numerology of 62, and a location ripe for flooding and named accordingly. Consider it was also a date with the numerology of 42, and it was mostly poor Black people who were disenfranchised by this storm, which was the same case in Houston. Further, it was also a date with a life lesson number of 44, and the New Orleans Saints would go on to win Super Bowl 44, with the Saints defeating Peyton Manning, whose father was a longtime player for the Saints, a sure sign of the scripted game that was. August 29th, 2005, date with numerology is 62. Date of Katrina here. Flood 62, Taurus 62. August 29th, 05, date with 42 numerology. Think about what we learned about 42 in Black history. That's in chapter 18 just before this. August 29th, 2005, date with numerology of 44. Again, hurricane, 193, the 44th prime. For the record, Super Bowl 44 was played on the 38th day of the year, February 7th, 2010. Katrina has the gematria 38. Louisiana has the gematria 38. Let us now examine the gematria of New Orleans, Louisiana, in light of the gematria of flood as well as hurricane. As we decode, keep in mind football equates to 83. New Orleans, Louisiana, 83. Hurricane, 83. Flood, 83. New Orleans, Louisiana, also gematria of 227, like flood and satanic. The mayor, Ray Nagin, had turned 49 years old 79 days before the storm, June 11th. Recall that the number 227 is the 49th prime. His name was also fitting. Ray Nagin, 44. Ray, 44. With regards to that 79, that's a murder number. In light of the heavy coding of 44, please research HARP, which is a military program that stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, having reduction gematria of 223 and reverse reduction gematria of 227, connecting to flash flooding and flood respectively. The History Channel put out a special on which you can stream online showing how the research project has the ability to accelerate powerful storms from hurricanes to tornadoes, as well as cause earthquakes. I saw today that they're projecting tornadoes in Florida as well. Anyway, HARP has the gematria of 44 with the alphabetic order, like military has gematria of 44 with the alphabetic order and rules numerology. As for the name of the storm, Katrina, recall it had reverse reduction gematria of 52, corresponding with hurricane and flood. In ordinal gematria, Katrina also equates to 74, syncing with hurricane and killing. It was reported after the storm that 1,833 people lost their lives. And the sad part is the number was likely much higher, and worse yet, it was intentional. If you were alive then, I'm sure you remember the failures of FEMA, which said they were not prepared despite the fact that the news media hyped the storm and the possibility of it hitting New Orleans from August 23rd on. Let us examine how the gematria of FEMA, as well as its head of, at the time, Mike Brown, factored in. As we decode, remember the words of George W. Bush, who complimented Mike Brown despite the failures by saying, "You're doing a heck of a job, Brownie." Mike Brown equals 52. Katrina 52. Michael Dwayne Brown equals 97. FEMA 83. Again, in case you're losing track, because we are covering a lot of numbers. But just remember, hurricane has the gematria of 97 and 52. Flood has the gematria of 83 and 52. So perfectly named man for the job, for the devastation in New Orleans from Katrina. For another memorable hurricane, let's revisit Andrew, which made landfall in Elliott Key August 24th, 1992, the day leaving 129 days left in the year, a number corresponding with America, Andrew, and the location it touched down. As you'll recall, if you were around, this was a major story for the nation, one of the most destructive storms in its history at the time of. Where it hit, Elliott Key has gematria of 129. Again, it hit on the day leaving 129 days left in the year. Andrew also has gematria of 129. It was reported that Andrew killed 65 people. Let us examine where this number was pulled out of, and let's also acknowledge the gematria of 97 for Andrew, where Andrew was said to be a Category 5, the most powerful classification. Andrew sums to 65. Florida has the gematria of 65. How old's Rick Scott right now, you guys? He's born in 52. Guess what? He's 65 years old. His birthday's 52 days from today. You know what I'm saying? All throughout history, these storms synced with the puppets in charge of the states, the cities. It just shows you how set the chessboard is. Andrew also has gematria of 97 like hurricane. Category 5 hurricane also has gematria of 97. I should mention, don't ever donate $1 to the Red Cross, who in all of these tragedies fleeces the public and gives none of the money to the suffering people who are the victims of these purposeful tragedies. Keep in mind the Red Cross is the symbol of the Knights Templar, the Masonic order that first delivered the Kabbalah Code to the Catholic Church, which began the tradition of tyranny by the numbers, which has evolved considerably since the time of the Crusades, well before weather warfare and instruments of destruction, such as HARP. Notice the emphasis of Day of Giving from the Red Cross. Red Cross has the gematria of 52, Day of Giving 52. Day of Giving also 65 like Knights Templar. Day of Giving also 83 like Harvey. Day of Giving also 119. And this was in the aftermath of Harvey. Let us now transition to the subject of fires purposely set by the code. We'll begin with a very recent one, the October 8th, 2017. You know what, you guys? I'm just going to stop here for now, take a little break. I am supposed to go do something at 11, and I'm realizing there's no way I'm going to make it through the chapter. So again, This book, for the time being, it's 773 pages. It's dense and packed with information. I mean, we've only read just 13 pages, and if you paid $5, you already got your money's worth. You know what I mean? So, what I need from you out there who refuse to buy the book is I need you to buy it anyway. I need you to find whatever is in you that makes it willing to go spend the $5. I need you to do it, not because I need your $5, but because I need the sales number for this book. See what I mean? There's my lady right there. I'm supposed to go pick her up. So it looks like I have to go get her right now. Can you pick me up? See, you guys, I knew it was coming. I was supposed to pick her up at 11, but it looks like it's going to be early. I need you guys to help me get the sales number for this book to 10,000 so I can get a publisher to put it in print. This book needs to be in print. Might have to take out a few sentences about long noses and this and that, but the world needs to know this information. And if it's in print, more people are going to get it. So for those of you out there who got $5 to spend on the truth, here's the spot to invest it. In that live reading, we had 4 sales. Grateful for that. Thank you very much. Problem is, we need a whole lot more. So I'll be back again, Truth Seeker. I'm going to end the broadcast here. I got to go pick up my lady friend. Till next time.